Hello, Debasis. Hello,
Hello.
Debasis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Start. Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's time. It's time to start.
Yes,
It's
yes.
time.
हाँ, start करो.
Uh, Good evening to everybody to this evening. On behalf of Philosophy family, it's my privilege to extend a hearty welcome to all of you connected through the virtual mode of teaching and learning philosophy. Friends, in connection with the webinar series on contemporary Indian philosophy, today we will listen the philosophy of the Nobel recipient Vishwaguru Rabindranath Tagore. On this good day, Dr. Om Narana Rao and Dr. Jatin Biswai, the two eminent and popular teachers of our state, are with us in this evening to deliver their scheduled topic on the philosophy of Dr. R N Tagore, particularly Dr. Om Naran Rao. In the first session, will speak on the concept of a man and morality, and in the second session, Dr. Jatin Biswai will speak on the concept of God and religion in the philosophy of R N Tagore. I welcome both the speakers and both the popular teachers of philosophy of our state to this evening. I also welcome our dear Armeni of philosophy family, Sri Pramod Kumar Das, coordinator Dr. Patita Bhavan Das, coordinator Sri Debasi Sharangi, and all our moderators and of philosophy family for their continuous effort and support to make the webinars meaningful for the noble cause of the students of philosophy. I welcome also all the teachers, the senior teachers, teachers of philosophy, the students, the scholars of our philosophy, that is of our country, those have supported and have made the past webinars very meaningful and successful. Friends, uh, Vishwaguru Rabindranath Tagore was a world famous poet. He was also an eminent novelist, uh, dramatist, educationist, social reformer, politician, philosopher, and he was a man of morality. You know, the center of Tagore's philosophy is man of God. His concept of God has been influenced by his humanism, his concept of humanism, his ideal of humanism, which was inherent in his outlook, in his philosophy. For him, the supreme reality is essentially human. The love of God is the love of human being. Again, Tagore's concept of education is man-making process. It emphasizes the physical, the moral, and spiritual aspect of human personality. In this evening, in the first session, Dr. Om Nam Rao will be speaking and exploring the philosophical outlook of R N Tagore and will focus on man and morality. But before inviting him to speak in the webinar of this evening, it's my pleasure to speak a few words on him. You know, Dr. Umnan Rao is a co-admin, is a coordinator of philosophy family, and his contribution to make the program of philosophy family successful is speechless. Dr. K. Umnan Rao is presently working as Associate Professor of Philosophy in Niranjan Government Women's College, ASCA, and he has a very brilliant academic career throughout. Dr. Rao did his master's in philosophy and MPhil in philosophy in the University of Delhi. Then he obtained his doctoral degree from Sambalpur University, and he started his teaching career in GM College as an assistant professor of philosophy. Now, currently, he is working here in Niranjan Government Women's College, Aska. and he has a lot of publication in different national and international journals. To his greatest, Dr. Rao has authored more than 15 books, which have been very popular among the students of logic and philosophy of the state and in our country also. I don't want to recite the name of all his books because all his books occupy a special position in the heart of our philosophy teachers, students, and scholars of philosophy. He is a very brilliant scholar in philosophy and participated and organized a number of seminars and programs, and is associated in different philosophical and ethical forums. Okay, and I welcome Dr. Rao to start his speech. Okay, welcome to Dr. Rao. Welcome, Dr. Rao.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for your nice words. Namaskar, everybody. Respected organizers of this webinar series and my dear participants. At first, I would like to thank Philosophy family for giving me this opportunity to speak on man and reality with reference to the philosophy of Rabindranath Tagore. As we all know that man occupies a central position in the thought, conception and philosophy of Rabindranath Tagore. He gives man a special status of honor, dignity and uniqueness in this creation. For him, man is a personality much higher than his thoughts and actions. Man stands on a platform where he stays connected with the spirit within. But how deep is this connection with the spirit varies from individual to individual. However, Tagore speaks of a universal man who is said to have an eternal personality. He has the knowledge of endeavoring humanity under different circumstances while searching for the truth. Now, we can see in Rabindranath Tagore that man is described to have two important features or aspects. In one aspect, man has a biological and physical nature that comes out of his natural evolution. In another aspect, he is said to have a spiritual nature that differentiates him from other creatures. And this spiritual nature is said to be the infinite aspect of man, while the physical aspect of man or the bodily aspect of man is the finite aspect. Thus, we can see man in two aspects. One is the finite physical and bodily aspect, and other is the infinite spiritual aspect. While the physical aspect or the finite aspect is the lower aspect of man, the spiritual aspect constitutes his uh, the highest aspect of man. So we can see in two different forms, in two different aspects. One in is finite aspect and another in is infinite aspect. Now, Tagore thinks of an elevation from the finite to the infinite. He wants the man to elevate from the finite aspect to the infinite aspect. And this we can see expresses a change from determinism, a sort of determinism, to freedom, and from something that is outer or external to something that is inner and spiritual. And this elevation helps man to go beyond and be free. Now we can see man in two aspects, one the finite and the infinite. Let us look into these positions one by one. If we look at the scientists or the empiricists or even the rationalists or the intellectuals who seek evidence or proof for accepting something as true, they believe only in the physical aspect of man or the finite aspect of man. This is because they cannot transcend beyond their tools, the empirical tools or the rational tools. For them, only the physical is accessible, only something that is bodily is accessible and not the spiritual. Hence, they lay emphasis on knowing and understanding the physical aspect and tend to keep themselves away from the spiritual aspect. But on the other hand, we have, say, the mystics, the saints, the seers, who focus on the infinite spiritual aspect of man, and they reject or deny the finite aspect of man or the bodily aspect of man as something that is illusory. Okay, so we have two opposite tendencies. In one hand we have the people believing only in the finite aspect, and on the other we have a set of people believing only on the spiritual aspect of man. But Tagore is not happy with either of these positions. He makes a blend of the two. He says both these positions, if you take separately, they are one-sided, they are narrow, and they are partial. And he says that both the positions are important. Neither of these positions can be sacrificed in favor of the other. That means both these positions are required. He says, how can, he raises a question, how can any of these aspects, finite or the infinite aspect, be negated and be declared as untrue or false? That's why he asserts that man has two aspects, the finite and the infinite, and both are the real aspects of man. None of them can be rejected or denied or bracketed. The thinkers who resort to evidence or proof or experience, they reject the spirituality of man. Why? Because they are quite unaware of the real nature of truth. The limitations to which they are subjected are never realized by them. This being so, what they do is, what that is given to the senses or by the tools that they have, they take that to be real. And what that is not given to their empirical tools or the rational tools, they reject that as false. But it is the failure on their part actually. It is the failure on their part to elevate and go beyond the limits of ordinary ways of knowing and understanding. And they never consider this as a deficiency on their part. So the problem lies there. They just remain confined within their boundaries defined by their senses or by the region or by the scientific tools, and they assert that the reality is just empirical or say worldly. So what they fail to realize is that the reality has many aspects which the scientific tools or the empirical tools or the rational tools cannot grasp. Now, even within the scientific domain, are the empiricists or the scientists or the rationalists comfortable with various issues, like say, can the scientific tools or the empirical tools define and explain the concepts like say or the issues like say what is love, what is charity, what is compassion, what is friendship, brotherhood? No, science cannot explain this. These are the things, these are the values that have to be realized, that have to be understood within. These all depend on how pure you are there inside. They don't reflect or they cannot be explained by the pure biological terms or the physical terms that the scientific tools want to explain. The scientific tools want to make and explain everything in terms of the physical nature, mechanistic explanations they want to give. But science cannot explain everything by giving a mechanistic explanation. So science fails there. Science has to realize. So this is the aspect. Even within the body of science, even within the body of say experience, there are many things which cannot be experienced. Science believes that they are there, that some certain things are there, but science cannot explain them in a deterministic sense. Say, for example, in the microscopic world, the science or even experience cannot explain what is there in the subatomic and at atomic and the subatomic level. Science fails there. Well, there are explanations, but there is not a satisfactory explanation. Still things are going on. So, while having limitations on its part, the science or the scientists or the empiricists or the rationalists who cannot transcend and go beyond to grasp the spiritual element in man have no right to deny the spiritual aspect of man. You see, if I am not able to understand something or conceive something, that doesn't mean that there is no such thing. If science is not able to understand the spiritual, conceive the spiritual, realize the spiritual, it's well and good. But it has no right to deny that there is nothing spiritual. The entire universe, Rabindranath Tagore says, is full of spirituality. Only a realization is required. So that is the problem, one issue. On the other side, we have certain seers, saints, who believe only on the infinite aspect. They, as I've said earlier, they deny the physical aspect or the bodily aspect as illusory or unreal. But Tagore would say that any rejection of the finite self would imply a rejection of the infinite self also. Why? This is because the infinite self can be realized only through the finite self. If we deny or reject the finite self, how can we think or how can we realize the infinite self? So the finite self has to be there. in order to realize the infinite self.
Andre,
A finite self needs to be there in order to realize the infinite self. So Tagore says that man is to be seen as a finite infinite complex. He is he is to be seen as something which is particular and universal. Man is individualistic as well as he is universal. Why man is individualistic? Because every man is unique in his own way. He has certain characteristics, certain features of his own that separate from others. Even you see, if we look at twins, though they physically appear same, but the features, certain features they exhibit, they vary. So my point is, every man has an individual character, but at the same time, men have a universal nature. It is because of the universal nature in man that we are all clubbed together as men and are called human beings. So, in a nutshell, I say that man is particular, finite, bodily in one sense, and he is also universal and infinite and spiritual in another sense. And we need to recognize both these aspects. The physical aspect is the lower aspect, and the spiritual aspect is the highest aspect. And the lower aspect, the bodily aspect, is the medium to elevate to the spiritual aspect. Okay. Now, in the finite aspect, again, let me say certain features that Rabindranath Tagore has pointed out, that man is a product of evolution. Like animals, he is also he has also evolved. Hence, he shares certain features, say animal features. He has needs, he has desires, and he's like animals. Man is also say selfish. He's egoistic. He wants his own desires to be fulfilled at the cost of the genuine desires and genuine interests of the others. Okay, so that's how man is selfish, like animals. He's egoistic. Now, being egoistic and selfish, we have to see how far man has tried to overcome the basic instincts to elevate higher and higher. And it is what is required to elevate to the infinite aspect. Now, again, though man has the animal aspects, it is different from animals. Why? Because man has the capacity to control to senses. He has the capacity to control, exercise control over himself, his senses, his body. He can also withdraw his senses if required. And he has a mind that coordinates his activities, which dictates his activities, it controls his activities. It is because of his mind he exercises control while interacting with others, while interacting with nature. Now, since as I said, man has animal aspect, it is because of this he has desires, though he has an elevation higher than animals. But what we see is in the finite aspects, the desires are unlimited. There is a multiplication of desires. Suppose, say, let me take an example. Say, somebody wants a car. He has a desire for a car. He gets a Maruti car, but he's not happy with it. He had a desire of having a car, having got a Maruti car, he's not happy with it. He sees somebody else driving a duster. He wants a duster. He gets a duster, but still not happy. He wants a Tata Bench, then Mercedes, and it goes. There is no end to it. So that's how, in the finite aspect, man is limited. He is bound. Man is ignorant in the finite aspect. He is bound by the chains, the connections of the worldly life, the worldly desires. So there is no scope for elevating higher. He has to come out of those desires. He has to put an end to it. Well, there is a need of a car that's urgently needed. You have a car, get contented with that. That makes you happy. But having got a car, you say you want a better brand, a higher version car, then you are in the circle of the desires, and that would keep you unhappy. And that defines the ignorance of the finite man. Now, I have said you, man is egoistic. In his ego sense, what happens is he rates himself much higher than others. And he wants always to satisfy his own ego. He is least concerned about what others think. I'm saying in the pure finite aspect. I'm not totally defining man. In the finite aspect, man is egoistic. He wants to satisfy his own ego. Now, though sometimes he understands that the other's point of view is correct and the right one, the appreciable one, but since he has accepted something and he wants to satisfy his own ego, he wants to keep himself defending his own position. It is because of this ego sense that finite man commits various mistakes, sins, and undergoes through tough situations, brings in problems for himself and others, and also suffers from his own behavioral patterns and actions. So this is how being selfish, being egoistic, having desires bind a man to the world, and there is no elevation. Okay, so that's problematic. So, but having said this, Tagore says that the finite man has the potential to realize the infinite spiritual spark within. And this spiritual realization consists in going beyond the physical limitations from the outer world to the inner self. Man has to rise from the pure selfish interests to the interests of the family, to the interests of the community, or the interests of the society, or the state, or the nation, the world as a whole. So there needs an elevation. So this elevation puts man to have a moral life where the satisfaction lies in the achievement of some common or a general good. But this is not the end to the spiritual realm. A still more refinement of personality is required in the path of morality, which will automatically, so with better and better actions, taking your way or being carried by, carrying yourself or ourselves in the moral path. So there is a refinement in personality which automatically drags one to have on put his foot on the spiritual realm and realize the infinite spark within. Thus, three things we can say here. One, that the finite man, the bodily aspect, has within him the infinite man, the infinite self. And that needs to be realized, number one. And it is this finite man, it is this finite self that elevates to the infinite. So this finite self is the ground, the platform for the elevation to the infinite self. Number two, there is nothing called infinite self apart from this finite self. This is the important thing, that important message that we need to see. The infinite aspect cannot be seen apart from the finite self. If we negate the finite self, we negate the infinite self also. So the finite self cannot be taken as a piecemeal, or the infinite self cannot be taken in the piecemeal. The finite self and the infinite self, they are together. Okay, and that needs to be realized. Now moving to the infinite aspect of man. This infinite aspect of man is described by Rabindranath Tagore as the universal in man, as the surplus in man, as the spiritual force in man, or the divine force in man, or he says, or something, he says Jivan Devata. The infinite aspect he calls as Jivan Devata, and he makes a reference to, of the infinite self as Purna Manush. Okay. He says there is an intimate bonding between the finite and the infinite self. And he says, in leading a life for oneself, society, and the human community as a whole would serve as a medium for a slow and steady progress to the elevation to what is called as the universal man. Universal man is the highest personality who has the concern for love, compassion, sympathy, brotherhood, truth, etc. With a sort of spiritual vision to conceive reality as both finite as well as infinite. So reality is both finite as well as infinite. Man, again, he says, in the infinite nature, tries to go beyond himself. All his energy is directed towards the accomplishment of goals. You see, in the infinite aspect, man sets certain goals, and I mean the spiritual goals. He sets the spiritual goals and he tries to reach those spiritual goals. In the process of reaching the spiritual goals, there may be certain barricades, certain hurdles in the accomplishment of the spiritual goals. But still further efforts on his part would help him to achieve the spiritual goals. And this feature in man is called by Rabindranath Tagore as the surplus in man. Okay. Now, as I said, in the infinite aspect, since man has an elevated personality, he takes with him the people around, the people in the society, and everybody out there in the world, in the universe, everything out there with him. He doesn't see any sort of differentiation with himself and others. Any pain to others gives pain to him too, because he is the spiritual element. He sees himself as spiritual, and he is spiritually connected with everything out there in the world. So that's how, having established the connection with each and every entity out there in the world, he develops a love for nature. He feels himself one with the nature. That is the beautiful aspect that Tagore points out. He says, in the infinite aspect, man is dynamic and evolving. You say, what is this evolution? You see, here the evolution is not physical. Here the evolution is spiritual. It's an inner evolution. It's an inner evolution where there is a refinement of personality with every moral act, with every good act. There is a refinement of personality, and this polishes the infinite aspect and makes man to grow into what is called as the highest personality, the universal man. And again he says, in the infinite nature, man is free. But this freedom must be differentiated from the freedom that man has in the finite realm, in the physical realm. In the physical realm, the freedom is something fine, it's something limited, it's bounded. But in the infinite realm, freedom is something which is total, it is complete. In this freedom, there is an aspiration of realizing the oneness or unity, a sort of universal in man. And finally, in the infinite aspect, man experiences a sort of joy within. He finds closer to everyone and with nature. He experiences the divine spark within, walks on the path of morality, and makes a ride to the spiritual realm. So you see, it is again in the infinite aspect, man seeks liberation and immortality. In the finite aspect, man cannot think of immortality or say liberation. The finite aspect is going to decay, it has to come down, it has to end up. The finite aspect. But the infinite aspect is immortal, and it is this infinite aspect that continues, and there is no end to it. There is no end to it. And this man has to realize. And I said, the infinite aspect is called by Tagore as Purna Manush or the Jivan Devata. Okay, Jivan Devata means the element of divinity in man. It is God in man. It is this aspect that makes man divine and godlike. Tagore gives a very good example of realizing this finite and the finite bodily or the physical aspect and the spiritual aspect by a very good example he cites. He gives an example of a temple and the divinity within the temple. The temple and the divine. We can understand something like this. Temple and the divine. Temple and the divine. We know temple is the structure, it is the house of the divine. The divine is housed inside the temple. Some people go to the temple, see the grandeur of the temple, get lost in the grandeur of the temple, all forgetting the divinity within the temple. They visit the temple for a half an hour, say, but in the Garbhagriha they will be in say less than a minute. So they are limited within the temple, the physical aspect. There are people while visiting the temple, they negate the grandeur of the temple simply focus on the Lord within the temple. In the temple, they focus on the infinite aspect. There are people who go to the temple, enjoy the grandeur of the temple, and also seek the divine grace of the Lord in the temple. So this is the example that Tagore gives to explain the finite-infinite relationship. In the finite-infinite relationship, you see, the temple is compared with the body, and the spirit within, the infinite man within, is compared with the Lord in the temple. So there are three types of people: the people who are satisfied with the finite self, the bodily aspect, are the people who are satisfied with the structure of the temple. The second category of people who negate the body as unreal and focus only on the spiritual, only on the Lord or the spirit within, they are the second category of people. Tagore is rejecting both. He says, yes, the grandeur of the temple, the bodily aspect, that is the bodily aspect, the grandeur of the temple is important, and it is the platform, it is the ground to elevate to the infinite. Okay, so Tagore says the body, the finite aspect of man or the temple is the instrument or the ground or the platform for the realization of the Lord in the temple or the soul within us. So this is the final position of Tagore with relation to man. So I say we can understand in three aspects. We have three types of people: one hitting at the finite and the other hitting at the infinite. But Tagore makes a blend of the finite and the infinite, and he says reality is both finite and infinite. I say a man is both finite and infinite, and the finite serves as the ground for the elevation to the infinite. So this is all about man, and I have another aspect to deal with, the reality. Now, dealing with reality, Tagore at places refers to reality as something absolute, but his usage of absolute should not be confused with the usage of absolute by the Advaitic thinkers, say Shankaracharya or something like that. Okay, and Tagore is was not comfortable with the usage of the word absolute. In the place of absolute, he makes the usage of the terms like, say, infinite personality, universal man, supreme spirit, universal man, say again, supreme spirit, Jivan Devata, Param Manush, okay, something like that. But he is not happy with the usage of absolute for supreme reality. Now, as we know, Tagore was a visionary, and he asserts that reality needs to be realized through one's own intuitive experiences, and he sees reality as a synthesis of the personal and the transcendent. And if we closely look into Tagore's conception of reality, we find that he oscillates somewhere between the Advaitism of Shankaracharya and the Vaishnavism that we see in the Bhakti saints. Again, we see for him reality is infinite and eternal. But having said that, reality is infinite, he does not negate the finite world of forms and things. Okay. And he says reality encompasses both the finite and the infinite aspects. Now, he sees again the supreme reality as both the material and the efficient cause of the world. And he says that that this world has been created by this supreme reality out of himself, since he says that nothing lies outside, lies outside. Okay, there is nothing that lies outside him, because the supreme reality creates everything out there out of himself. He says, because you see, as I said, as I pointed earlier, that the finite aspects are real, the infinite aspect is real. So Tagore says the supreme reality is present in the body, in the mind, in the soul. So everything. So everything is, the supreme reality is everywhere, in the finite aspect as well as in the infinite aspect. One again, who has the knowledge of his self, finds himself one with all the things out there in the world, and he sees everything as um, everything out there in the world as the Ishvara or the Supreme Person. And again we see, though Tagore sometimes at points describes reality as formless, featureless, uh, like a Advaitin, yet if we look into his philosophy in total, we find that the abstract monism is somehow sacrificed, it is ridiculed by him in favor of a theistic metaphysics. He tries to make a blend between absolutism and theism. And again, one more thing that we can see is he takes absolute as the secondary and the impersonal aspect of God. He considers the personal aspect of God to be greater, to be of much to have much importance than the impersonal aspect of God. He takes, as I said, God is a personality. Having said this, he says he's infinite. As I said, he's omniscient, he's omnipotent, benevolent, he's holy, etc. As the infinite personality, the supreme reality has infinite power, bliss, knowledge, and goodness. Tagore speaks, as I said, the infinite personality as the Jivan Devata or the man of the heart. Now, as I said in the beginning, that in the philosophy of Tagore, man occupies a central place. And while dealing with the finite, infinite aspects of man, I have said you that infinite has no role, no position without the finite. Here also, let me repeat, saying this, that the reality of God has no place without the reality of man. Since in the philosophy of Tagore, God and man, they both go hand in hand. Man is the spark of divinity, and this divinity within has to be realized. Tagore says that God is none but man divinized, and man is none but God humanized. So I say this is an important line. He says God is man divinized and man is God humanized. Please take a particular. Okay. Now, the divinity, as I said, is the personal God who can be felt, who can be approached, who can be talked to. That's we attribute a sort of personality to God, a personality to reality. And sometimes a question may arise, while ascribing personality to the supreme reality, are we limiting him? This is not actually so. God is an infinite personality beyond all limitedness and finiteness, but this infinite personality or the supreme person or the universal person comprehends all the finite entities, both living and non-living, but still remains unaffected by the finiteness of the finite entities in the world. Okay, you see, he comprehends the finite. The supreme personality comprehends the finite, but remains unaffected by the finiteness of the finite entities in the world. This supreme personality is not detached from the finite, rather he comprehends the finite without losing the essence of infinity. He comprehends the finite without losing the essence of infinity. This may sometimes sound illogical, but this is not actually so. Why? Because the reason is, without a finite intellect, as I said earlier, there can be no realization of the infinite. And while dealing with the finite infinite aspects of man, I have said to you that reality is both individual and universal, and this infinite personality can also be seen in the individual and the universal aspects. And this infinite personality again may be seen as the source and strength of all our inspirations, aspirations that we have in man. Coming finally asserting that, having said all this, let me say that the supreme personality is the truth. He's the infinite knowledge, and he's he is perfect bliss. And this infinite nature, this supreme reality, and its realization doesn't require any outside ride, rather a travel is required inside to realize the spirit within. So here lies the reality, the supreme reality. Having said all this, let me sum up that in the philosophy of Rabindranath Tagore, the reality has to be seen both in the finite and the infinite aspects. None of the aspects can be denied as unreal or illusory or false, because both the aspects, the finite and the infinite aspects, are real. Having said this, we are in a position to assert that we have God as the supreme reality. He is the infinite personality. And again, we say man, with both his finite and infinite aspects, is real. And the infinite man, the infinite personality, the supreme personality, God, can be searched within. And also, the world that is created by God, the supreme reality himself, that is also real. So everything out there in the world is real. Nothing can be negated. So reality in the philosophy of Tagore is all encompassing. Nothing is illusory, nothing is false. Only that a realization is required that the finite serves as a ground for the elevation to the infinite. And the reality has to be realized in both these aspects. Thank you everybody for listening to me. Thank you all.
Hello, hello, hello,
Yes, sir.
hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rao, for your thought-provoking presentation on the philosophy of Tagore. And you have very clearly clarified the concept of Tagore's concept of a man, reality, morality, and his concept of supreme personality, everything. And at the beginning, you have made it clear that how man has two aspects. One is finite aspect, and another is infinite aspect. The biological aspect, which is treated as finite aspect, and the spiritual aspect, which is treated as infinite aspect. And you have also made very clear that how Tagore had synthesized both the positions, both are the real aspects, and and of any rejection of finite self is a rejection of infinite self, and man has to be seen as both finite and infinite self. Man is both individualistic and universalistic, and he is selfish and selfless. He has animal aspect and divine aspect. So man has to rise or elevate himself to the spiritual status, to the higher status, to the infinite status. So you have cleared everything. You have left no room for clarification. Thanks, Dr. Rao, so much for your beautiful presentation on the philosophy of Rabindranath Tagore. Now it's time for uh, a question and answer session. May I request Sri Debashis Sarangi, who is the moderator of Philosophy Family, who is the coordinator of Philosophy Family, to carry on the interactive session. Mr. Debashis.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, and very good evening to all. As I am seeing, there is no such question in the chat box. If anyone wants to know something, they can unmute themselves and can ask their question. Hello. If anybody has some question, they can unmute themselves and can ask their question. Okay. Okay, sir. Hello, Kailash sir. Hello. Hello. Sir, you are
Okay.
in.
Hello.
ଏବେ ଠିକ ଅଛି ଏବେ ଠିକ ଅଛି
Hello. Then, if there is no such questions for clarification, then offer a vote of thanks to Dr. Rao.
Okay. No. One question is there. Pradeep Behera now ask a question. So Pradeep Behera wants to know: science is the product of human thinking, and thinking belongs to infinite aspects. Is it right, science? Is it right? Science is finite aspect.
Yes. So the question as I see, that he says, is science deals with the finite aspect? Yes, science does deal with the finite aspect, because the scientific tools, they're finite. They are have certain boundaries, and they cannot go beyond the boundaries. And within the boundaries too, science is never finite. Sorry, never final. Science is never complete. You see, there is nothing in science which you say that it is final. It is binding on us. Is there any? Can you guarantee any law in science that we say that it is the final law in science? No, we cannot guarantee that, because the scientific laws are framed in accordance with what we see external, and we don't have the complete picture. Can we study a book of physics 100 years that is written 100 years ago? Whether we study a book of physics that is written 100 years ago, no, we'll not study, because many of the ideas have changed. Why this change? Because science is not able to tell the reality within its fold also. Within the finite fold also, it is not able to conceive the reality. Forget about the spiritual aspect. Forget about the infinite aspect. Even within the boundaries, the finite boundaries that we have, science is limited. Science is finite. And it is this aspect that keeps science progressive. Science never says that, oh, my part is over and this is an end to me, and I have come to an end. No, there is no end to science. Why? Because there is a lot of unknown aspects, the innumerable aspects that we have, and science could only know few aspects. We could only know only some aspects. Number of aspects are unknown. That's why science is not able to say, well, I have done everything. No, science cannot say that. Cannot say this. So that's how, if yes, the second aspect he says, well, thinking is involved in science. And he says, is not thinking an infinite aspect? Well, this is a question to be again thought in. Yes, the question that that leads to is whether thinking in man not an infinite aspect. No, you see, to go beyond means you have to go beyond every tool. Even the thinking has to be sacrificed. Your reason has to be sacrificed. Your experience has to be sacrificed. There is a total negation. You have to be thinking attaches you, and in that attachment you will just revolve, and you will not find a finality. There is a goal. Once you feel you have achieved the goal, and you feel, no, this goal is not complete, there is another goal to be reached. And once you reach that goal, you feel, no, this is again limited. Still aspects are to be discovered. Now, so this is, even thinking binds you, makes you revolve in the area of the finite. To realize yourself within, you have to, no, I'm not saying don't be attached. Yes, should be attached. There needs to be attachment. That attachment needs to be carried with a sense of detachment to everything out there, to focus within and realize the spirit within. So thinking, you say, well, it binds, and the rational mind always binds. So to focus within, yes, thinking is required in the finite level, and that has to be sacrificed to focus within. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ratnakar Gajendra sir, he wants to know, Tagore is not a academic philosopher. How do you classify him?
Yes, yes. You see, as we all know that Tagore has not written any philosophical say treatise, okay, or a book. So much of the philosophy that we know of Tagore is through his literary activities, through his poems, through his novels, through his literary activities. So it is from there that we carry the philosophical elements that there are that we have in him. So to the second part, to Dr. Gajendra sir's question, that I say that Tagore is much concerned about man, and we can classify him, Tagore, as a humanist. It's okay. He has a love for nature. He has love for God's creation, and above all, he is a humanist. And And he wants man to realize the divine spark within and find himself one with everybody, find himself in a sense of love, friendship, okay, together, to be together with others, to be in a sense of unity with others. So he may be classified as a humanist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your nice explanation on the Tagore's philosophy.
Now, one more thing that I see that Pradeep Behraj asked, realization of the infinite. You see, science cannot realize the infinite. You see, I said you, science has failed to properly realize even the finite. Even the finite aspect, science could not realize properly. It is, science is never complete. No day science will guarantee that my work is done. No scientist will guarantee that the work of science is done this day. No theory is, or no law is ever final. No law is ever binding. The laws will keep on changing, and better laws will be coming with newer and newer experiences. And recently, we know Stephen Hawking has put forth, is talking about the theory of everything. So he wants a unifying theory of everything. You see, it's a theory that can bring together all the theories together, put all the laws together. So we can have a universal theory that applies to the entire universe. So one theory, that the theory of everything, that will apply to every aspect. So don't you see a spiritual element in that theory of everything, which science also tries to move, but it cannot encompass. Spiritual element, science cannot encompass. It cannot define, because it has failed even to finally search the finite. So nothing to talk about the infinite aspect from the platform of science. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So now Amrita Haldar, ma'am, I don't know whether she wants to ask some. Hello, Amrita ma'am, are you there?
Okay, she says where she says I could see the question where science stops.
Hello,
Philosophy.
hello, sir, Pranam, sir, Pranam. Very good evening, sir. Sir, I have no question, sir. Sir, it is a very wonderful discussion, sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
thank you.
yes, sir, yes, sir.
But I could see that you say where science stops, then
Yes, sir.
philosophy starts to work.
Sir,
No,
philosophy starts its work. Yes, sir.
I mean, what the way I see is something different. You see,
Yes, sir.
the beginning of everything is philosophy,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
and the end of everything is philosophy.
So
You see,
philosophy is an end in itself. Yes, sir.
no, see, philosophy is both the beginning and the end, and in the end there is a beginning. Let
Yes,
me
sir.
let me try to explain this something like this.
Sir, actually, we are back by time.
I will complete in 1 minute. Okay. Now we can take a seed. We can take a seed as philosophy. Okay. Seed as a philosophy. Seed as philosophy.
Yes,
A
sir.
seed grows into a plant or a tree, and the tree has various branches. Okay. The seed, that is philosophy, it has sprouted, it has grown into a tree, and the tree has number of branches. Now these different branches in the tree can be seen as the different fields of knowledge. May it be physics, chemistry, biology, etc., etc. They are the different branches. Now you see, the tree again bears the fruit. The tree bears the fruit. And you see, fruits are the results of the sciences. Now, and what these fruits imply, within the fruits we can see the seed again. And that seed is again philosophy. So there is philosophy everywhere. Science cannot move forward without philosophy. At the beginning, we have philosophy. From that, various sciences have emerged, and sciences bear fruits. And within the fruits, there are seeds, and the seeds imply the requirement of philosophy again for the further advancement in science. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. And thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your nice explanation on Tagore's philosophy. So now I think we should proceed to the second session. So now it's up to Kailash, sir.
Hello. Hearty gratitude to Dr. Rao. Now we have to move to the second session where our second speaker and the speaker of this second session is waiting, Professor Dr. Jatin Kumar Bisoi. You know, Dr. Jatin Kumar Bisoi will speak in this evening on the concept of God and religion, so far as the philosophy of Tagore is concerned. You know, Dr. Jatin Kumar Bisoi is now working as an associate professor of philosophy in the PG Department of Philosophy, Calicut University, and he has a teaching experience of more than 2 decades in different government colleges of Odisha. You know, Dr. Jatin Bisoi joined in teaching profession in the year 1999 after being selected by PSC, Public Service Commission. At first he joined at NC College, Jajpur. Okay, till date he has moved to different colleges like DAB College, Koraput, then SB College, Berhampur, and now he's at Calicut University. Dr. Bisoi did his PhD from JNU, New Delhi, under the supervision of Professor R.P. Singh. Apart from teaching profession, Dr. Bisoi has been engaged as NCC officer. Okay, he's the lieutenant in NCC in Calicut University, and he's engaged in Army Wing in Calicut University, and he's also assigned as a nodal officer B.Ed and M.Ed program in the same university. Dr. Bisoi is a very student-friendly teacher who takes utmost care of the students, and I have witnessed him how he can descend into the level of students to clarify every doubts of the students, both in UG and the PG level. He takes utmost care of the students in manifesting their curricular and co-curricular potentialities. He has completed different projects under UGC, NCERT, and ICPR. He has so recently he's also undertaking a new project that is regarding the religious and ethical practices in tribal community, a case study of Koraput. It is which is funded by UGC New Delhi. Okay, because of the paucity of time, I don't want to reflect upon all his curricular and extracurricular activities. Now, I welcome Dr. Bisoi, who will be speaking on the concept of God and religion in the philosophy of R N Tagore. Welcome, Dr. Bisoi. Welcome, Dr. Bisoi.
Thank you, Kailash sir. Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Okay. Thank you, Kailash sir, and thank you the philosophy family for giving me another opportunity to speak in this virtual platform. And thanks to the main organizer of this philosophy family, Pramod sir, Kailash sir, Om Narayan sir, Pattawan sir, Devashish sir. Because of your effort, a lot of discussion, a lot of lecture series is going on nowadays since 7 months onwards. And in the lecture series of contemporary Indian philosophy, I have been assigned to speak on Tagore's concept of God and religions. And Om Bhai, while explaining the Tagore concept of man, no doubt, he interpreted God or ultimate reality in many ways, because in Tagore philosophy, God, man, religion, they all go together. That means if you want to understand one concept, we have to take all these 3 concepts. So I will start my discussions with the quotations given by R N Tagore in his famous work that is called Religion of Man. In this book, he explains, I am able to love my God because he gives me freedom to deny him. I think this is the existential and humanistic interpretations of God and religions, because man has given absolute freedom to say, to describe, to explain, and to interpret what he thinks about God and religions. So before that, let me go to some biography and a bibliographical picture of Tagore's thoughts. He born on 1861, and he was very much influenced by Vaishnavism, Christianity, and Arya Samaj, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, and by the thinker Abhidas, Kavi, Tatu, Nanak, and other Vedadic thinker. He's very much, he's not in academic sense, he's not a philosopher, but he's very much influenced by philosophical work of all the Indian thinkers. So, you know, Gitanjali is the magna opus of Gitanjali is the magna opus for which he was awarded Nobel Prize in Literature in the year 1913. And other notable work of Rabindranath Tagore was these are the other work, The Home, the World, The Religion of Man, The Post Office, The Garden of the Sadhana, The Realization of Life, The Eminence, The Brokenness, The Religion of Man, so many. And these are the various work of Tagore. And Tagore is famous, his contributions famous as a poet, philosopher, we say humanistic philosopher, universalistic philosopher, international philosopher, anti-nationalist philosopher, mystic philosopher, educational philosopher, naturalist philosopher, idealist philosopher, spiritual philosopher. He is a philosopher as a whole. As a whole means he's a mystic thinker, he's a poetic thinker, because we have derived his philosophy from his literary writings, from his poet, drama, literature, all these things. And he's a humanistic philosopher because he interprets every concept, he explains everything in terms of human being. Humanism means the giving importance on humanism, that kind of philosophy which focuses on human being and interprets everything in terms of man rather than any other abstract authority. And Tagore, in that way, he's truly humanist. And he's very much practical. He's practical and humanist. So let me start on Tagore conception of God. And for Tagore, like Vivekananda, he explains that God and reality are not two different concepts and entities. Both have the same entities, because in philosophy we are saying that the ultimate reality, it is a metaphysical concept and God is a religious concept. But for Tagore, they both have the same. And not only for Tagore, not only reality, God and man. For Tagore, God, reality, man, both, all these things are the same concepts. Only he poetically explains the concepts only, but for him it is the man, just whom I told, who is the divine man, the man that we have, the divinity we have, that is called God. So, but God has been poetically described as an artist par excellence, a lover, a singer with the universe as his son, the music maker, and so on. And we say that the impersonal reality is called God. Impersonal reality is called personal God, because you know the impersonal reality is nothing but if you visualize something within us, that is called personal God. He is very much influenced by the personal God, and he told that just as the physiology of our beloved is not our beloved, similarly this impersonal law, abstract principle, is not the God, because God is the God, and ultimate reality is the expression of personalities, like the poem, work of art, and literature, drama, all these things, like all these things, God, he believes in personal God. And in his own words, he says that my word is given to the personal one by a personal being, which is called personal God. And just Mumbai told that God is, he described differently, it is a universal man, it is a surplus in man, because this is the surplus element that exists in man. It is universal man, because this element we can universalize. I will tell you in religious concept, explain how it is. And Mumbai just told how it is surplus in man. And it is the infinite personality, all these things. And this is the, when we talking about God, means he is talking about the concrete and universal aspect of God. He is against any kind of abstract entity, metaphysical concepts. God as a real entity that we have a divine powers. And if we realize that kind of divine power within ourselves, then only we can realize the God within ourselves. So if God is not something abstract, God is not something metaphysical, God is not something absolute, God is something which is the supreme person, which is called Purushottama. It means he is the best human beings is known as God. So the other aspect of God is man. So God and man, they go together. On one hand, he says. But on the other hand, he says also God is formless, featureless, structureless. It means it is called Satyam, Anandam, Shivam, Sundaram. So it looks contradiction, inconsistency, antinomy in the philosophical one. But Tagore does not believe in any logic, argument, and in any kind of reasoning. So he claims to believe that on one hand he says that God is personal. On the other hand, he's saying that God is formless and featureless. So it does not contradict, because his philosophy, his religion is full of poetical, mystical. That's why this is the case. So God is the presupposes the object of love, hope, aspiration. According to Tagore, when we are in suffering, when we are in agony, when we are in distress, the ultimate resort that we need, the ultimate abode that we need is called God. The ultimate resort that we need is called God. We say that the last hope, the last the inspiration, the strength that provides to man is called God. He says in Gitanjali, he says in his poetical language, no more sailing from harbor to harbor with this my weather-beaten boat. Now I am eager to die into deathless. This is the quotation, because when we need some kind of consolation, we need some kind of support, we need some kind of, we may say, moral support, hope, strength, which is being provided by God. And that's why his God is called human God, which is called Jivan Devata, that is the man of his height, the divine man, the Lord of his life. And this absolute God, this God opposed to any kind of metaphysical concepts, and it is opposed to Puritanism, asceticism, impersonal absolutism. Tagore does not believe in the renunciation of life. Suppose when if we want to maintain a spiritual life, we should not give up the family, we should not give up the bondage, we should be here only, and we should be practical. And if you should realize the God that is present within us, then everything can be possible. So he explains the monotheistic interpretation of God. In monotheism, we say that God is one, and that God is very much personal. And God, because he is very much influenced by Western cultures while explaining the monotheistic concept of God. And again, like Gandhi, Tagore explains God and truth both have the identical and actual concepts. They are not different concepts. The true self is called God. We have it because the self that appears, that is in Maya, that is appearance selves, that is in outside. But the actual selves that we have, that is called divine self, that is called universal self, and that is the ultimate reality, and that is the truth. So according to him, that is called God. God and truth are identicals. So they are not two concepts, they are inseparable aspects of the same reality. In his philosophical work, that is in Religion of Man, I have gone through the text. What I have seen here in that book, he has taken an attempt to reconcile the position of personal and impersonal God. The impersonal gods, as it is an abstract principle, Brahman, just like Shankara, Brahman, and a personal God is just like Ramanuja, Ishvara, and he just reconciled these two concepts. What I perceive that according to Shankara, the impersonal gods, the Brahman, can be realized by Jnana Marga. But according to Tagore, if you want to realize the impersonal God that exists within yourselves potentially, we have to follow not only Jnana, Bhakti, and other Marga, means the ethical Marga, the moral Marga. If you realize that kind of thing, then we can realize what is that kind of personal God. So in that way, God is active and dynamic. God is not a static concept. It is not a constant concept. It is active and very much dynamics. And if you realize the God within the selves, then we can achieve the salvation, enlightenment. So enlightenment, getting enlightenment, salvation, mukti is not something like it is identical with Brahman. It is something, it is the communion of the self with God. That means if I know, he says two quotation, if I know as I know myself, we are the real. So suppose if I know what my true self is, if I know what I am, if I know myself, just like phenomenological existential approach, he also adopts same things. So salvation is not a kind of identity with the higher self, so-called God and absolute. It is not an absorption of the self in the higher selves. It is, he says, I am in me. It means when I realize my true self, I realize what I am, then only I got salvation and mukti and mokhyas. Okay, so according to Tagore, getting salvations is not important. It is not a getting, it is a kind of self-realization of oneself. It is a kind of self-identity. It is a kind of self-unity. Okay, so in his philosophy, throughout his philosophical work, he attempts to synthesize absolutism with theism and personal impersonal aspect of God. And just Umbai told that absolute is a secondary aspect of God because he gives importance of personal God. Personal God is related to man only. That's why when we think about the absolute, that is the secondary aspect of God. So God as a unity which is comprehending all the finite existence. That means the infinite personality comprehend all the finite existence, but being unaffected by it. Just Umbai told it that how that infinite personality is, you know, how it just it integrates, it comprehends all the finite aspects of the human life. Still, it is unaffected by it. So he believes in physiotheological concept of God, which is explained by Leibniz, that I'm not going through. Okay, so according to Tagore, God is that thing which can be realized. It can neither be perceived, neither can be known. It is not object to be known. Like Vivekananda, like Radhakrishnan, he says that God can only be realized through men. The essence of religion, religion is there to teach how to realize the God. Because God is omnipresent, God present in each existence of the universe. He says, "Thou art the sky, thou art the nest as well." That means everything of the universe is created by God. God is omnipresent. And like Radhakrishnan, he says that the same reality reveals in all the form of existence. The absolute realities, it sleeps in the stone, it breathes in the plants, it feels in the animals, and it awakens to the self-consciousness in man. That means the absolute is omnipresent and absolute present in each existence, in each being of the universe. We have to realize, when we realize these things, then everything we can become a truly humanist, and that is called God. And God cannot be proved logically. God is the efficient cause of the universe. And I just told that God provides the ultimate abode of human life. And by explaining the Jivana Devata, he has given an anthropomorphic conception of God. And he has very much attempt to explain humanization of God and divinization of man. These are the two aspects of Tagore's philosophies. So according to Tagore, God cannot be taught, God cannot be proved logically. The rational and logical proofs for the existence of God cannot be possible, they are challenged. So he has developed teleological argument, design argument, moral argument, and intuitive argument for the existence of God. And among these arguments, he very much he explains, he gives much more importance on moral and intuitive argument, because God is a kind of visualization. When we visions the reality, that is called God, and that is called darsana, that is called religion, that is called religion, that is called darshan, that is called philosophy, that is called God. So it is through intuitions we can visualize, it is through moral practices, ethical practices, we can develop, we can know, we can realize what is God existence. So through the moral principle of companionship, friendship, partnership, and through the love, sacrifice, faith, all these things, God can be realized. And in his work on the religion of man, he explained there are two methods of God realization. One is, he says, music, another is called dedicated service. So by writing various literal writings, by writing poems, by writing music, by drawing various pictures, by doing some kind of dramatic composer, as a dramatic composer, we can realize what is God. Because at that time we can detach ourselves from this day-to-day life and we can realize what is our true selves. Secondly, through dedicated service, we can realize God. When we feel that the same being, the same absolute, the same reality present in each and every existence of universe, I can extend my love to all kind of being, all kind of existence, all kind of being. Because I feel what I am, I can feel what other feel. So in that way, he explained there are two ways of God realization: realization in action, realization in love. Realization in love means we can realize when we have feeling of love, we can realize what others have feeling, what others are realizing, what other sentiments. And realizing in action means I will extend my actions practically. I will go to the field and help other people. That is a kind of, I will go to the actual field and help and dedicate my life for the cause of the society, for the cause of the community. And I realize, according to Tagore, these two processes can be also be realized through aesthetic existence. It means when we have, when we see, when we visualize aesthetic existence. Aesthetic means when we see beauty, existence, beautiful existence in each being of the universe. When I see that how a beautiful animal is created, if I feel that how a beautiful bird is created, when I have that kind of feeling, I can realize that thing. I can realize love in them. And when I realize in love, I can extend my help to them. So when I can extend my help, I can realize what is God. So this is about the aspect of God. Let's come to religions. So according to, this is Tagore's definition of religion. Tagore says that my religion is essentially a poet religion. It does come to me through the same unseen trackless channels as does the inspiration of my music. My religious life has followed the same mysterious line of growth as has my poetical life. That means his religion is not something different. He does not believe in any kind of institutional religions. When we talk about religions, if you ask any common man, religion means we certainly understand religion in Hinduism, Christianity, Muslim, like that. But according to Tagore, religion does not believe in any case of institutional religion, because institutional religion creates disturbance. It creates religious conflict. It creates communal harmony. It creates communal disharmony. So it creates communalism. So in that way, he believes in the true religious life, which can be possible through the divine life, which can be possible by realizing one's own selves. So in that way, Tagore explains that he rejects any kind of, he does not believe in any specific religions and religious practices, and he is against the institutionalized religions because they are dogmatic, one-sided theory, they are false theory. So Tagore quotes two things. Tagore says that my religion is my life. It is growing with my growth. It has never been grafted on me from outside. My religion is poet religion. My religion's life has followed the same mysterious line of growth as has my poetical life. Because his religion is very much associated with mysticism, pantheism, Upanishadism, monotheism, Brahma Samaj. I'm not going to explain all these concepts, but if question comes, then I will discuss. So, actually, he was primarily Brahma Samaj. Later on, he changed his concept and he believed in the religion of man. Because man, since center in his philosophy, he explained, I told that he explained everything in terms of man. So he explained the actual religion, true religion, in terms of Jivana Devata. That is called the heart of the divine personality that we have, the divine man. So actually each religions have various aspects, axiological aspects, myth and rituals, philosophy, These are the various aspects of religions. And Tagore gives importance on the axiological aspect of religions. He does not believe in the philosophy, rites and rituals, and these legends, all these aspects of religion he rejected. And he only believes in the axiological, value-oriented aspect of religions. So if I do some kind of altruistic work to the society, if I do some kind of humanistic work in the society, philanthropic work in the society, if I extend my love to each being of the universe, then I can realize what is my religion. Religion does not mean going temple, mosque, and doing upas, fasting, all these things are not religions. What people are doing, that is not religion. If I spend 10 rupees for the purpose, for the noble purpose, for some benefit of a student, for some benefit of a poor girl or poor students, then that is my religion. This is also Tagore philosophy. Religion does not matter if you go to temple and you do worship, idol worship, all these things. He does not believe all, but he still believes in personal God. Personal means the man is the real God. The man means if you realize the man in the society, in the community, that is there the real God. So he is against any kind of ritualistic worship and idol worship. He is against all type of idol worship. Suppose I spend a lot of money on by doing this puja, upvas, all these things, then it is useless according to Tagore. If I spend the same money for the cause of humanity, then I am really a religious man. So religion is a relation of man with nature and God. So this is what a real religion Rabindranath Tagore is talking about. So a religion is not a kind of escape or renunciation. It is not a kind of, because if we suppose if I out of this society, if I stay in the outside, if I like put posaka like Baba and do some work there and live in jungle, and that is not a religious. Religion, renunciation is not the religions. So I think this is similar to the Upanishad's concept of Nibhuti and Prabhuti. And he is very much concerned about the Prabhuti. Nibhuti is not the religion, because it is a life and existence. We can practice the true religion being a member of this society. And man, religion has been described as a spontaneous expression of the essential inner aspect of man. Because essentially, man is good. Because of some kind of force, some kind of things, he becomes bad, or he's doing some kind of mistake, and he becomes he's doing wrong actions. So if I want to develop, if you want to practice a religion, first of all, I have to know myself. I have to know the divinity that is present within us. I have to realize what is my inner strength. I have to realize my inner selves. Then only I can be a truly religious man. So true religious does not preaches freedom. True religion preaches freedom only. True religious only preaches freedom. And freedom means spiritual freedom. Freedom means we are free to realize the true selves that is there in the society. And religion is necessary to realize the relationship of perfect love with supreme love and soul of all created beings. It says that love is love, faith, and sacrifice. These are the two aspects of human life. If I want to realize the religion, I must extend the principle of love to each being. Each being means supreme being, means the being which is present in society. That means I can realize the true self that is there in the society. If I realize the true self in the animal kingdom, if I realize the true self in each existence, then only I can realize what the true self is. So here I think that humanity and divinity, animality, he attempts to integrate all these three concepts in his philosophical work. And religion is identical with dharma. So dharma, generally we did what is our duty, moral duty, that is called religion. So man's moral duty is to realize what is his true self, what is his inner strength, and what is his divine self. Just like he has given the example, the wateriness of water is essentially its religion. Okay, since in that way, if I realize the kinship with each and every existence of universe, I can know my inner strength and I can be a truly religious man. So it is a kind of a spontaneity, naturality, and creativity, because it is not something unnatural. We are not supposed to do some kind of worship. We are not supposed to do some kind of work, and we have not supposed to do spiritual work. We have to just realize our strength. Then we can realize of ourselves with the universal selves. Then we can be truly religious men. So the aim of religion is to realize man's unity with divine. So that is the case. So love, sacrifice, sincerity, compassion, innocence, and other moral virtue, they constitute the essence of religious life. I'm just telling you that how Tagore gives importance on the ethical and moral aspect of religions. He neither gives on rites and rituals, worships, neither on philosophy, nor on any aspects of religions. He only gives importance on on ethical and moral aspect of religions. And Tagore, that's why it is called the religion of man. Because he explained everything in terms of man. And religion is the realization of unity, divinity, universality in man. And he said that it is a kind of religion I told that it is a kind of sort of homesickness. That means I just told that how when he says that when we are very much depressed, when we are very much upset, when we are in state of agony, if we are realizing what I am and being involved in day-to-day activities, mechanical life, if I can realize what is my true self, he's saying that is called religion. So as we saw, Gitanjali, he says that I told that no more sailing. Somebody is sailing in the sea. No more sailing from harbor to harbor with it. This my weather-beaten boat. Now I am eager to die into data. This is the ultimate resort, the ultimate abode of human life is religious life. And he gives importance on the universal aspect of religions. And we know that Swami Vivekananda explains the universal religion, but Tagore also explains the universal religion, but there is a difference. According to Swami Vivekananda, any institutional religion can be universalized, but Tagore does not believe in any institutional religions. So Swami Vivekananda fixed two conditions, two norms for any institutional religion to be universalized. First of all, we must believe that nobody is born with this or that religion. And secondly, Swami Vivekananda claims that each and every religious sect, I mean institutional religions, must open its gates for every individual and must provide comfort and peace to every religious sect. But Tagore does not believe the second aspect. Tagore believes that he does not believe in institutional religion. According to Tagore, universal religion can be possible when it throws its gates open to every individual. That means when we think that religion is what we have to realize, what we have to do, some kind of social work, some kind of human, some kind of benefit to the society, then that is called religious. And in his book on religious of man, he explains the 4 stages of life: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and prabhajya. Prabhajya, he explained this is the unique concept, that is the iotine for joyful death, which leads to the union of the infinite. And this is the religious life. This life is the religious life, the last life, that is called prabhajya, which is called religious life. And he explained death is nothing, but death is not just a renewal of another life. And we should not, death is not the end of life, death is the beginning of a new life. So in the cyclic process of life, he explains how individual cells enter into community, and from community to universe, and from universe to infinity, from infinity to again to individuals. So poetically, he explains all these concepts. And we should not worry about the death. Death is not just the end of life. Death is not the beginning of a new life. Just beginning of a new life. So in other thinkers, they explain that we are talking about the Videha Mukti. That means once we suppose after death only we can get the liberation, that is called Videha Mukti. But he gives much more importance on Jivan Mukti. And other thinkers say that after salvation and death, after salvation and Mukti, Moksha, enlightenment, there is no rebirth. But Tagore says that there will be another rebirth. Rebirth continues, life continues. We'll get again the life. The rebirth continues. That means we have to realize God in this life. We have to do some kind of, and after that again we have got another new life, and we have to, this life process will continue. So and this is about how Tagore explains the universal aspect and the cyclic process of life, and he explains. I told you just that how he attempts to explain this man and with God through Jivan Devta. Jivan Devta stand at the apex levels to integrate man, God, and religion, all these things, and he attempts to integrate transcendental reality with empirical reality. And humanism, it is the bridge between the God and religions, and he attempts to reconcile both finite self, infinite selves, and personification, nature, religions, and all aspects of beings. He attempts to give a personification aspect of nature. He gives a natural, he gives a personal element in nature. He gives a life to nature. He gives a being to the nature, and this is he in his philosophy. Man, God, religion, they all go together. They all go together. And, so the infinite personality, infinite concept, which is called the idea, and the finite concept, the finite being, the finite finite personality is called form. And he attempts to integrate all these two concepts. So nothing is called infinite, because when I realize infinite self is within me only, when I realize my actual self, my true selves, and my divine selves, what my natural selves, then I can only be truly religious. And lastly, with this discussion, I conclude that how both God and religions are neither metaphysical, nor epistemological, nor transcendental, nor religious as such. They are completely reasonary, philosophical, personal, emotional aspect and experiences. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Okay. Dr. Bisoi.
Yes, sir.
Within a very short span of time, you have presented the scheduled topic in a very beautiful manner. Really, it is an excellent talk. It might have quenched the academic thirst of our students. And at first, I have already told that how Dr. Bisoi can descend into the level of students to explain any topic. And really today, you have explained everything for the noble cause of our students, and you have also clarified how God is not a matter, how God is a matter of realization. He cannot be understood by means of argument or logic, and how Tagore gives importance to intuitive mode to realize God. And you have also clarified how hello.
Yes, sir. Go
And
ahead.
you have also explored how the creativity and social service are the means to realize God. And you have also explained how action and love are also the means to realize God. And you have also explained different modes of religion, how Tagore does not believe in any institutional religion, which happens to lead the religious conflict. And the true aim of life, as explained by you in Tagore's concept, that moral virtues are the essence of religious life, and so many things. Okay, you have clarified everything. Okay, thanks for your explanation. Thanks for your understanding of the philosophy of Tagore. Now it's over to Sri Debashi Sharangi to carry on the interactive session. Debashi.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. As I see, the first question is from Ratnakar Gajendra, sir. He wants to know every religion must be based on some kind of philosophy. Tagore's religion is based on which philosophy?
Okay. Because for Tagore, philosophy and religion, they are not two concepts. They are the same concept. Because Tagore interprets both the concept in the same way. Because the philosophy is called darsana, that is the vision of the reality and real self. And religion is also called the same thing, that is called the vision of the reality and the actual selves. So in that way, for Tagore, philosophy is not a separate entity. Both philosophy and religion, they are the same.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Then the next question is from Pragya Daskanun Gomem. She wants to know, if God is not different from men, what is the need to provide arguments for God's existence?
But I could not follow again, sir.
Yeah. She wants to know, if God is not different from men, what is the need to provide arguments for God's existence?
Okay, Tagore does not believe in any argument because he does not believe in logic, argument, and rational proof. He rejected any kind of rational proof and logical proof for the existence of God. But God as a concept exists, and God is not a physical God. God as a concept exists, but God does not have any kind of physical existence. And if I can, God is within me only. God is within me only. Not only Tagore, I think almost all thinkers, even the existential thinker, phenomenalist thinker, all the Western thinker, what I have gone through, they only explore that you should know yourselves, die yourselves. That means if I know myself, if I know my real selves, if I intuitively perceive what I am, then only I can know other selves. By knowing myself, I can know what others are, what I can realize what others selves. In that way, by knowing myself, I can realize that if I am having that kind of true selves, that means I am having a divine power within me. That divinity is the natural potentiality, natural power to man. So God is not an isolated entity besides man. God is not having some kind of existence apart from man. God is there with man only. So that's why he does not believe in any kind of logic and rational proofs to establish God existence. Okay, because everything is created. Because his philosophy is humanistic. Humanism gives focus on man only, because this universe is created by man, not by God. And man means the actual man, the real man, the divine man, so-called God. That's why it is called God. Okay, the divine man has created this universe. Now we have a peaceful universe. Now we have love, affection. Now we have a community. Now we live a civilized society because of man only. Man means that due to some kind of divine power. We have divine power. That's why due to which we are here only. Okay, so God means nothing abstract, and God is not something absolute. God is what is there within you only. You have to realize only. So Tagore does not provide any logical established proof. He does not support. That's why he supports, I told the axiological argument he gives. He does not support any other arguments.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So, Pradeep Behera, are you there? Hello? Pradeep Behera? If you are there, you can unmute and ask your question. Okay, I'm reading his question. He wants to know, is Tagore's idea of religion is ideology oriented?
No. It is ideology oriented. That is a different thing. Tagore religion is different from all this ideology. He does not because he is very much practical man. He wants to practice. He wants very much practical man. He wants to practice his philosophy in the real life. That's why he gives maximum importance on man making education. That way he established Santiniketan. So that is the Vishwabharati. So all these things, because he is very practical. What is there in man? We are divine. Potentially we are good enough. And the aim of education is to realize all these things. And the aim of philosophy is to realize all these things. So he does not prescribe any kind of ideology. And so that's why his philosophy is very much practical and pragmatic, you may say that. It is not a conceptual, theoretical, logical, and it is not a philosophical and ideological. It does not include his philosophy in any idealism, either idealism or realism. We cannot discuss in that way. Because he is not an academic, he is not a philosopher in the academic sense of the term. So that's why we should not understand his philosophy in terms of idealism, realism, not like this. He's a true man and he's very much practical man.
Okay, thank you, sir. And then the next question is whether Tagore is against institutional religion or
Tagore, yes, at that time, Tagore was very much against institutional religion because institutional religions, Hinduism, Muslim, Christianity, Jainism, Buddhism, all these religions create differences in the society, not solidarity, unity. Because religions, rites and rituals, this create difference. Because each religion has rites and rituals, and each religion rites and rituals are different. So due to these rites and rituals, each religions are conflict with each other. That's why institutional religion, sometimes in society, all the communal disharmony, all the religious conflict are happening due to this only. So he is against any kind of institutional religion. Institutional religion, suppose Hinduism is there. Hinduism is there, but you should understand the ethical aspect of Hinduism. If you want to study the Christianity, if you want to study the Christian philosophy, religion, you just study what is the concept of universal brotherhood. So in that the ethical, moral aspect of religion must be focused, not the institutional aspect. Institutional religion gives much more importance on rites and rituals, whereas actual religion gives importance on ethics, morality, values. Okay, which Tagore focus on this aspect of religions. Okay, so that's why he is against any kind of institutional religions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Then the next question is, if religion talks about axiological and it does not accept the ritual and philosophical aspect of religion, then his question is that is axiological or value-oriented things are not coming under philosophical aspect of religion?
Yes, that is true. That is because in philosophy we have discussed about all these things. Because in philosophy because as you understand the philosophy, the mother of all science, and philosophy includes the axiological aspect is a part of the philosophy. But for Tagore, philosophy and religion are one and the same. Because you go through the text of Religion of Man, in that he has written religion and philosophy are the same. Religion is a kind of one's vision of the reality, darsana, vision of the reality, real selves, and philosophy is also called the vision of the real self or reality. In that way, they are the same. But in philosophical world, if you go to the philosophy, if you consider philosophy as a mother of all science, in that way, axiology is a part of the philosophy. So Tagore actually he makes so many contradictions in his philosophy because he does not believe in argument, logic, all these things. Because his philosophy and his religion, his God is poetic. Poetic means we cannot argue them. What is one's mystic feeling? It is the expression of one's feeling. It is the realization of one's feeling only. It is we cannot discuss and debate in logic, argument like this. What I feel.
Okay, thank you, sir. Then the next question is from Ishwar Chandra Naik. He wants to know what is the concept of universal man according to Tagore.
Okay, universal means the same divine power present in each and every man of the universe. We have to realize that thing only. Universal means we have to realize that what is my thinking, what is myself is saying the same self exists in other being also. So when I have that kind of feeling that I cannot harm others, I'm sure that if I feel that if I know my true self, what myself wants, what I want, what my true self, actual self what, I cannot harm to others. So universal means is that kind of thing. That is it is a surplus in man. This power is a surplus in man. It is a universal aspect of man. It is universally present in each being of the universe. And the aim of religion is to explore it. The primary aim of religion is to explore the divine power that is present within us, in each man of the universe. That in that case, it is a universal, because the same divine power is present in each existence of the universe.
Okay, thank you, sir. Then the next question is, what is finite soul and infinite soul?
Okay, finite self, when we are, because the self, when we say that the self, actual self, the real, the self that is there, that is the appearance self, we may say. Suppose the cells, individual cells in the finite world. Suppose his finite world by condition, by limitation, having in family, world life, that is my finite selves. But infinite self is my real selves. Infinite self is my actual selves. Because infinite self is only comprehending and all the finite selves. Okay, without being affected by us, by it. I just told it. The finite self is limited selves, condition selves, the self which is determined in terms of space, time, conditions, factors, family, friend, society. But infinite self is true selves, divine selves. That's why he said this is called divine self. That is his philosophy. One line I told you that divinization of human life, man, that is called infinite self. Divinization of man and humanization of God. These are two concepts. Divinization of man, same thing. Divinization of man and humanization of God. So the divinization of man is the divinity power we have, that is called infinite self. Jivan Devata.
Thank you very much, sir. There are no such question in the chat box. So
Thank you.
Now it's up to Kailash, sir.
Actually, Devasis, actually,
Yes.
hello Devasis.
Yes, sir.
So I can find Dr. Ranjit Ghosh in the screen. Okay, may you request him to have a compliment on it? Dr. Ranjit Ghosh, sir, pranam. Okay, Dr. Ranjit Ghosh, sir, pranam. Okay, please have a compliment on it.
Thank you.
No.
I must thank Dr. Bisoi for his lucid presentation. I just want to add one thing. You see, in his Jivan Devata, Tagore is bringing a concept of Naranarayana, and that Naranarayana is giving us the real picture of the complete identity between man and God.
Okay, thank you.
This much I want to just an addition.
This is
Dr.
not my
presentation is very lucid and acceptable to all. Thank you.
Actually, this is not my research topic, and just in the classroom teaching what we normally teach. That's why I just expressed, it is not my area. That's why I was feeling hesitant before few days how to speak on this topic, because this is not my area, sir. If I have committed any mistake, then I am sorry for that, sir.
No. Nobody is.
I have just gone through the one test, that is the Religion of Man. That is the book I have.
Right.
And Gitanjali, this is written in Bengali, English, I don't know, I have not gone to the way. And other secondary book, that is Bikelal, and other articles he has written, that is Mahadevan book. And
you have presented it very nicely.
No, I don't have sufficient knowledge on this topic, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I want to ask you one question, sir. Sir.
Yes, sir. You may.
Sir, that I want to know that whether ideology differs from value, sir. Is it differ from value?
Yeah, ideology and value system both are different, because ideology always stand as a norm and standard what I feel, and it is. But ideology is there, because if I want to practice a particular value, ideology is essentials. So in that way, we cannot say that a value system. If you want to practice a particular value system, ideology must be there. Without particular ideology, you cannot practice it on one hand. On the other hand, if we see that ideology is sometimes say that it is an idea, it is a conceptual and but value system is something which is very much practical, we may say. In that way, they both are different. So besides that, I don't have any information on this topic.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Then Deva says, actually, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, hearty gratitude to Dr. Ranjit Ghosh sir and Ratnakar Gajendra sir and other senior teachers of philosophy who are regularly viewing this program, and they have given us courage and support and guidance to carry on the activities of philosophy family. We have hearty gratitude to them. Now it's over to you to have a nice vote of thanks and gratitude to both the speakers, Dr. Rao and Dr. Bisoi.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. First, I would like to thank of today's session, first session and second session, Rao sir and Jatin Bisoi sir. Both of them their topic on Tagore's philosophy, Tagore's religion, Tagore's universal concept of universal man. Thank you very much, sir, for such kind of enlightening lectures. Thanks to coordinator Kailash sir. Thanks to our main host Pramod sir, and also to all the viewers and all the student teachers across Odisha and out of Odisha. Thank you all for to be with us. Thanks, thank you everyone. And yes, in 22nd at 5 p.m. There will be a program on Mahima and Mahayana philosophy. I request all of you to attend this. I will send all the details to the philosophy family group.
Hello, Devashish, tomorrow?
No, not tomorrow. Day after tomorrow. On 22nd. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you all, and good night.
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Devashish.